2 years before we get our own place.
This is really crazy. I feel like I'm a kid. Had I known, I think I would have to reconsider my decision to come here. This feels like I'm in a country where I'm not secured. If things don't change, I'm going back to Uganda.
Joan's been in the States for a matter of minutes, and she's already sick and tired of feeling like she has no security, and who can blame her? But if Greg was hoping that taking Joan to meet his friends might help, if he was hoping that his friends would be on his side, well, he's got another thing coming.
I wouldn't want to live with my mother-in-law.
I wanted 3 months.
So what are you doing to achieve that?
I'm about to jump off this dock into this morning.
Sorry, Greg, jumping into the ocean isn't going to get you out of this one. You're going to have to buckle up and get your life on track sooner rather than later if you want to keep Joan. Now, before we dive into everything his friends reveal about him, let's rewind to the start. So, the last time we saw the pair, Joan was trying to settle into Greg's mum's house with all of her rules. You're having too many showers, she was told. And just to add insult to injury, her fiancé Greg, who's complaining he doesn't have enough money to move out of his mum's house, later revealed to her, much to her dismay, that he'd turned down a job offer. A state job, a job with a steady income. Now, when we join them in this episode, they're on their way to take the dogs out for a walk.
I'm excited we're out of the house, so we can be together. Just us, me and you. Your mom is out of the picture.
Who can blame Joan? I mean, they haven't exactly had much alone time, have they? What, between living under his mum's roof and living by her rules? You can understand why she wants to get out and spend some time alone with her fiancé. Now, while they're walking, Greg wants to know if Joan is nervous about his mum. Is my mum the reason why you didn't want to be intimate with me last night, he asks. To which Joan responds, well, yeah, yes it is.
In my mind, I have like, oh, you're going to start being intimate, and she'll be like, did you guys follow my rules? Yes. Open that door.
I mean, just imagine you're doing your thing, you're getting hot and heavy, things are heating up, and then Greg's mum pops her head in through the door.
Hey, what are you kids doing?
For as hilariously tragic as that would be, this does give us a very real insight into what's going on in Joan's mind, what she's worried about. She's clearly not comfortable, but more than that, she's not prepared to let Greg have his way until she is comfortable. So if Greg wants to get laid, he's going to need to get his act together. So when do you think that will be, Joan asks? When will we be moving out?
You know, if everything goes normal and everything goes right, maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Oh, it's going to take that long?
2 years! He expects Joan to live with his mum and follow her rules for 2 years. Joan says that she thought the longest they'd be there would be 6 months max. Heck, even that would be nearly impossible, but 2 years? Are you kidding me, she says. That sounds like an eternity.
2 years before we get our own place.
This is really crazy. I feel like I'm a kid. Had I known, I think I would have to reconsider my decision to come here.
Now, that is a very big admission, isn't it? But again, who can blame her? She's given up a stable job, a stable life, her own house, to essentially live like a child in someone else's home. I don't think it's a matter of love. I don't care how much she loves Greg. She doesn't deserve this. Now, part of the problem is, Greg is adamant that he doesn't just want to rent somewhere. I'd rather save my money and buy our own place, he says, even if that takes longer. But that raises another question. He says he wants to save money, but where exactly is that money coming from? Remember, he doesn't have stable income. He doesn't have a proper steady job. Yes, he works as a plumber, but by his own admission, most of his work comes from his friends. Like, he sits around waiting for his friends to have plumbing issues before he can earn an income. That doesn't exactly sound very reliable. But believe it or not, it actually gets worse. A whole lot worse. You see, unsurprisingly, given that he has no steady income, Greg also turns out to be in debt.
I guess like $8,000, a little bit more than that in debt.
I knew Greg had a debt, but I didn't think it was that big, like $8,000.
Now, it's not the craziest amount of debt I've ever heard of. You'd have to imagine he'd be in a lot more debt if he had to take out a loan to open up the bakery he talks about. But at the same time, he is still in a hole. It's a hole that's been caused by car repairs, paying for Joan's visa process, and all the times that I've flown out to visit Joan, he tells us. So before we can even think about moving out, well, I have to pay my debts first. Again, without a job. And not only that, but let's not forget, they also have a wedding coming up. How are we going to pay for that, Joan asks.
I don't even know. I don't even know when to begin. But this is what I was thinking, right? We can cook all the food ourselves, me and you. Or, obviously my mom would probably help out.
Oh, great! Just what every bride wants. That's the romantic fairy tale wedding that every little girl grows up dreaming about. Having to roll up her wedding dress to plunge her arm into a bowl of coleslaw, yelling, "Yes, chef," while her mother-in-law critiques the seasoning.
Heard, chef.
Okay.
Will she also have to wash the dishes before she says "I do"?
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
I mean, it's tragic, isn't it? It's not what Joan was expecting. But, says Greg, I'm sure my mum will help us too. We can all work together and save some money. And while Joan is all for saving money, she does have her limits. There is one thing, just one thing, that I beg of you, Greg, she says.
I don't want us to spend like a lot on a wedding, but I also don't want like an ugly wedding dress. Like, I want something good. I want something that would look good on me.
This is the only wedding we're ever gonna have, she says. This is the one wedding dress I'll ever wear in my life. I've grown up dreaming about this day. I just want to look good. I want it to be my special day, she says. And Greg promises her, make a note of that, promises her that they do have the budget for a special dress for her. But all of this seems to have come as a wake-up call for Greg. Things really do have to change, he says, and I'm trying my best to change. I've actually got a couple of job interviews lined up, he says, and I really hope for his sake that he lands one of those jobs, because if he doesn't, well, the way that things are going right now, there's a very real risk that he might lose everything.
This feels like I'm in a country I'm not secured. If things don't change, I'm going back to Uganda.
All Joan wants, and it's not too much to ask, is security. She's brought that up a couple of times now. What she's seen of her life to be so far is very far removed from being secure. Now, that does, of course, raise questions about how well she actually knows Greg, how good their communication was before she came here. But having seen what she's seen, it may only be a couple of days, but having seen what she's seen, she's already very tempted to jump ship and leave. Now, in a bid to try and ease her fears, Greg hopes that taking her to meet some of his friends, two friends that, funnily enough, are both called John, will help to convince her that her life in the States will be okay.
I just can't believe this is crazy. I can't believe you guys are here. We got Joan here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
How's it been?
Yeah, so far it is good.
Yeah. Is it different?
Very, very different.
Very different.
Now, there's no denying it, Joan does seem quite nervous here. But John and John are both very welcoming and they're both very supportive. They've known Greg for a very long time. They're his closest friends, they tell us. And in fact, one of the Johns, a John that was with Greg at school, shares some great insight into Greg's character and who he really is.
Sometimes I feel like Greg's humor can be kind of a deflection for whatever internal issues he's having. You know, he's still living in his mother's house at the age of 35.
That is slightly savage, but then again, what are good friends for, right? They're here to tell the truth, aren't they? I mean, it's true, the guy has a point. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of reasons why someone might live with their parents or their parents might live with them at 35. I don't doubt that. But the problem is, Greg still doesn't have a proper job. His mum does everything for him. That's a red flag. And as much as his friends love him, they can't ignore that. Now, presumably having known Lucille, knowing what she's like, right? Greg's friends ask Joan, what's it like living with Greg's mum? Joan politely replies that it's fine. But then comes the next question. How long do you guys think that you'll stay there?
I wanted 3 months.
So what are you doing to achieve
that.
I'm about to jump off this dock into this morning.
You need a plan, Greg, his friends say. You need a plan that isn't based on hopes and dreams. You have someone else that you need to worry about now. You've now, probably for the first time, you've now got very real responsibilities. Enough talking the talk, they say to him. Enough dreaming. Isn't it time to actually take some steps and get your own place? They ask him.
I know you have this dream of a bakery, but is it worth spending that money on a bakery, or is it worth spending that money on housing?
Look, dreams are great, right? Everyone needs an aspiration. You need to be shooting for something. But, as his friends point out, Greg doesn't come from money. He doesn't have a trust fund or rich parents. You don't have the luxury of just dreaming but not taking action, not earning money. It's time to be a bit more realistic, buddy, they tell him. Work on taking baby steps. Maybe get a job first, earn an income, move out of your mum's house, and then you can revisit your plans to open a bakery, they tell him. And Joan completely agrees with this. That is great advice, she says, especially as the bakery isn't even the only big dream that Greg has.
I want as many kids as she's willing to give me,
How many kids are you willing to give? Two. Very realistic number, thank you.
I would settle for 4.
10 kids, Greg. Do you have any idea whatsoever how much it costs to raise even one kid? Where are you planning to live with 10 kids? Is your mum's spare room big enough? I mean, it's ridiculous, and hopefully he said that as a joke. But from everything that Joan has seen and everything that John and John have told us, Greg really does appear to be living with his head in the clouds, and that's a massive concern for Joan. Look at the facts, she says to him.
Have land in Uganda, I come here in America, have nothing like a house. I have to stay in his mother's household. It's ridiculous.
After everything I've seen, after everything I've experienced since landing in the States, Greg really has to get serious, start setting a budget and earning money before I'm even willing to think about one kid, Joan says. For now, 1 is a no, let alone 10. And I guess going back to why she rejected intimacy the night before, that, in addition to Greg's mum, might also be playing a role. Now, for as true as all of this is, right, and it is all undeniably true, I can't lie, I do feel a little bit sorry for Greg here. Like, there's harsh truths, but there's also a feeling like he's been ganged up on a little bit here. Hopefully this tough love is exactly what he needs. So what is his plan?
I have to figure out something that's going to support the both of us, at least until she can get a job, and then we can figure it out from there. At least until she can get a job, and then we can figure it out from there.
I have to get a job and support us at least until she can get a job. Oh boy, I really hope he doesn't mean it in the way that just sounded. If Greg's plan is that he'll stop working the moment that Joan starts, if he's hoping that she's going to provide for him and care for him in the same way that his mum does, I get the feeling Joan isn't going to stand for that. That, Greg, is a terrible plan.